I mean, we could give it till June 8th and I can check back with her and see if she's got any progress or heard anything additional.
You know, I'm more worried about her health and safety.
She seems perfectly healthy, quite honestly.
Yeah, but I've seen that camper, and you know, there's only one way in and one way out.
Yeah,
And it's not legal to live in the camper in the township.
right. Well, that's right, you're right, it's not legal, it has been going on for a very long time. You know, we have other situations where the township has taken action, so.
Are you comfortable with June, like saying, at least present something by June 8th, that she has a vehicle purchased and waiting for it, and if not, then we move forward?
I think that's
What do you
reasonable.
think?
I think that's reasonable, yeah, I'm thinking it's also reasonable to move forward now, but that's
Right.
not a bad idea. She said about the car, but she hasn't demonstrated proof that she actually
Correct,
purchased.
that's right.
Tell her that's the deal, she produces it, you know, and maybe some from a dealership as to when the vehicle will be available.
Okay,
To our township satisfaction by June 8th, or we're going to initiate the process,
Okay.
begin the process.
I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we've been having some issues with a house at 2117 Perkiomen Avenue. We received a complaint from the tenant that there was some mold and some other issues going on with the house, and upon investigation, it seems that the house transferred ownership without, and then the new owner renovated it without getting the appropriate permits. The house had flooded previously, and there's the potential that there might be mold issues and that sort of thing. So Ken and the zoning officer went out, I think it's changed ownership a couple times actually in the last couple years. So they're in the process of having the owner, I think, remove a portion of the wall so that they can look behind the wall and see if there's any health issues and if there was new electrical run and all of that, to make sure that it's safe. I'm also gonna check with the county to see if there's funding to possibly purchase it through the flood, with flood funding, if they have some still, because the county did purchase the 2 properties next to it. So, so that's that situation.
Current owner is not entirely at fault, he's not a victim, I don't think, but he certainly didn't do a very good job of, doing any investigation or inspections before he bought the property. And when I say he, I think it's a small entity, there's probably a couple of different owners. I think the real person who's the culprit was the prior owner, because he picked it up very cheap and fixed it up and closed in a lot of walls and things like that, where you couldn't tell if the electric had been underwater at any point, whether the insulation had been removed and so forth. So the current owner was cooperative. I don't usually make these trips out there, but I was there on that occasion just last week. And he's willing to open several places in the walls, at about where the electric wire would be run, so he's gonna do those back. He also, on his own volition, hired a air quality mold company to test, and he ran that test. He was waiting for the report. He says when he gets it, he'll turn that over to us. And I guess the engineer wants to have a determination of just how high the water did get. So I think there's some base elevation information that's in the file, and then they're gonna get a survey to determine just how high the water was. And he agreed to pay for that too. So no one's in the house, so it's not really a harm or hazard. From my conversation with him, he'd like to undo the deal, but I don't think he even knows who the seller was or how to go about finding them. And if the county wants the property, he'll gladly turn it over to him, just make him a reasonable offer. But he's sort of stuck with it presently. But he's cooperative and we're moving along.
Okay.
It's really cool.
Okay. All right. We can move on to the next item? Planning commission?
Planning Commission, this past month, they worked on the water supply ordinance, which was passed last week.
Okay. Regional, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, there's no update from the Regional Planning Commission. Parks and Rec Board, do we have anything here from there? Parks and Rec Board, we started talking about potential playground equipment that we can afford with our grant that we're receiving. And then also, we have some money still from our grant at Spielhofer Park for the installation of a shade structure near the entrance. So we were looking at those, and then starting the planning for Community Day.
Okay. All right. Managers update?
All right, managers update. We are working on a newsletter to be sent out in June for the community. We are working on the new website. We're scheduled to get trained on it middle of next week. The hydrant study, I did go attend the HOA meeting this past Tuesday evening, talking to them about the alternatives and letting them know that if, in order to move forward with the possibility of that project, that we would need additional land from the HOA. So I asked them to discuss that and give us some idea of whether or not they'd be willing to give us that land. It was pointed out by one of the members that there may need to be variances for impervious surface associated with the process, because we'll have to put a new water tank in if we move forward with the preferred alternative. So that's just something we'll have to
Yeah, there would
keep
be,
in mind.
because it's maxed on impervious surface.
Yeah. So, let's see, poles on Knifer, Pico's been working on replacing some poles along Knifer and Faust Road. We did try to reach out to, I think, the cable company about some of the poles along Knifer that are a little interesting in their angles. Not sure that we really got much response from them, but we did try. At a couple meetings ago, the conversation about the homeless at possibility at Green Lane Park, the question was raised, who specifically from the county or from an organization, had initiated that conversation. So I talked to Kaylee Silver from the Office of Housing and Community Development regarding this topic. She just said an individual from a nonprofit partner organization came to her, but she's the one who went to the park and initiated the conversation. So, if anyone wants to talk to her, she's happy to discuss anything with them. She did say that this general part of the county, like upper Perkiomen area, really has a shortage of housing options, especially in the winter for people who are struggling. And so she had offered to keep us in the loop when they're looking at alternatives for folks.
So, just so I understand,
Mhm.
she reached out, this group reached out to her, and then she reached out
To
to
the
the
park.
park, and she still didn't tell you what the name of the organization is.
She did not, yeah. So, if you want to talk to her and press it, you certainly can. But she sort of took responsibility and said, I initiated the conversation. So, we've been having communications with Mr. Hendricks about his property along Big Road and getting it cleaned up. He's got some vultures living in a house and a falling down barn. We've asked him to get that cleaned up. He said the rain for the last couple of weeks kind of messed up his schedule, so he's hoping by the end of the month to get some contractors out there to make the situation better. So we'll hope that he really does that. If not, then we'll start the enforcement process. We have hydrant flushing scheduled May 16th in Perkiomen Crossing. A question was raised last week about doing annual pressure tests of the hydrants. I did communicate with Rick Sachs. It's really not necessary. It's a recommendation from, you know, the body who sets the rules, but, NFPA, thank you. But it's not a requirement, and it's typically only the recommendation is for hydrants that are actually used for firefighting. Right, so it really doesn't make sense, but I will note that the pressure has been tested in 21 and 22. And both tests confirm that they don't meet firefighting flows, which,
They did when they were built.
well, yeah, the flows then, but they don't meet the flows
Today's
now.
standards.
Right, correct. And those are my updates.
Okay. All right. Any questions? No. Okay. Old business, none. New business, resolution 2023-06, designation of chief administrator officer for pension.
So we
Excuse me,
had,
one second. Can I bring up something under old business, because I think
Sure.
that, that resolution was 2021-11,
the
public comment
public
period.
comment.
So just so everybody here in the residents of the township understand, the first meeting I sat at was a little disarray. I think things were out of control. I think there were some things that were out of line. So the resolution was set years prior, before I came on. So there's no misunderstanding of this resolution. And that resolution is to be followed. And to make this topic condensed, I think that all residents should have a say and have something to say when it comes to public comment. It's a public comment period. If you were at the work session last week, you would see how that flowed very well. People stayed on topic. There was comment about different ideas. And that work session flowed very well, and there was good input both from the board and from the residents. I have no problem, as long as the chair and the rest of the board don't have a problem, with the community speaking. But on the topic that we're talking about, and not to go off on a tangent.
Okay. Thanks.
So I think at the last meeting, if you need it, I'm sure Tracy can get it for you, resolution 2021-11, which was in 21, not 23.
Correct.
So are you for public comment at the end of the meeting, or no? What? It sounds like you are, but you said you weren't.
So I'm for comment once again,
At agenda item, so the agenda,
on topics that are very concerning for the community residents. I think there should be positive input into it. However, it should be positive input, and if it's not positive, it could be enlightening information, but it should not be negative commentary or going off on a tangent that leads the discussion of the board and the discussion of the town meeting down the wrong path.
that's contrary to the policy.
To what policy?
To the agenda, to what was just passed, or what was passed about a year ago.
Well, that was in
It-
21, that was before my time.
Sure.
The chair can open up,
Public comment at any time.
At his discretion.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why we had an ethics violation in 2021.
See, there we
And
go.
we're just closing things down.
See,
But
that's
it's true. It's
that's
true.
where we're going. See, that's why
It's true.
the control is under, once again, following the resolution,
Okay.
okay? That's my stance on it. Whatever you paint it as, that's yours.
Okay. Anything else? Good? Okay. All right, resolution 2023-06, designation of chief administrative officer for pension.
So this is the result of an observation from our pension audit that was completed, I think, last month. The pension audit was positive, there were no findings, there was just an observation that the township should designate officially a chief administrative officer for the pension. So the resolution before you is designating the manager as the chief administrative officer.
Do you want to open it up for comment? Okay. Well, look, we'll open this up for comment. If anybody has any comments, please come up to the podium and.
On the topic of, please.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Well,
Oh, Frank, please stand up. We'll try to follow the procedure here.
all right, will do. Can you explain this a little bit to me? What the pension for the people that work for the township?
Sure. So,
I'd like to sit down.
please, please. Thank you. So the township is part of a pension program for its employees. We have 6 employees. The township contributes 8.5% of their salary to the pension. We actually get funding from the state that actually offsets a good portion of that. And then the employees can choose to contribute more than that to their pension.
Like a 401K type of thing.
Kind of, yeah, exactly. The employees are vested after 5 years of employment. We actually changed that last year. It had been 8 years of employment required, and so we changed it to 5 years. So the township had gone from kind of a 401K sort of retirement program to this pension program in, I think, 2018, 2019. So this past couple months was our first official audit of our pension program. So my understanding is the audit will happen every few years. It's not yearly, it's every few years. And they just make sure that we're properly using those state funds to go towards the employees' pension and that it's all being distributed properly. So, for example, one additional observation is that we had an employee who left before he vested in his pension. And so for our next audit, we'll have to make sure that whatever funds he was not eligible for collecting, those will have to get redistributed to employees or returned to the state. So that's something, it was an observation that we'll just have to be prepared for that at the next audit and make sure that we handle that properly. So we have reached out to the state agency for guidance as far as how to reallocate those funds. The other observation was that we didn't have an official resolution that designated the manager as the administrative officer. The state organization has the manager as the point of contact, but this just formalizes it. Is that covered okay?
Yes, we got some understanding of it now.
Okay, great.
Any other public comments? Okay. If we're,
Before you make a motion,
go ahead.
do you think we should have a secondary on there, just, and I'm not wishing this, but in case something does, Tracy's unable to be, there's a second contact or a second, for some reason you're not available and paperwork has to be signed or decisions have to be made?
Well, I guess in that case, you would just redesignate somebody. But, I mean, you could, if you do want to do a second person, I would say probably the chairman of the supervisors. But then we would want to just postpone this to next month and redraft the resolution. So it's up to you guys.
Isn't it, what I'm looking at suggests that they're not appointing you individually, they're appointing the township
The
manager.
position of the
So would
township
there always be
manager.
a manager, even if it's an acting township manager?
I would think so, yeah. I mean, if something were to happen to me, you would put somebody in my position and then they would become the point of contact.
I think they're okay, just as it is. I don't think I saw the actual motion, but if that's what it says, it's probably okay as is. It should be okay as is.
Yeah, it doesn't designate Tracy as.
Right.
But this is township.
Yeah, not specifically Tracy, but for the township.
figure. I mean, it says,
Okay, it's not, doesn't ever require urgent action, right?
Tracy Township Manager is the appointed, it does, it's called, it says, it has her by name here.
Well, as then Tracy suggested, why don't you just
Redraft
table
it.
Redraft it, and say in the event that township manager's unable, the backup would be the chairman of the board, and then enact it next month.
Does this affect anything?
No,
Within a month?
no,
You've gone for years
Well,
without
yeah.
it.
yeah, we're fine. We're just sort of getting in a jump on it before the next audit, and that'll be several years, so.
Okay. And yeah,
So
so,
you want to make the chairman,
so I think it should be the township manager or acting township manager, and then have the backup. I guess you could make the chairman the backup to that category.
okay,
That makes sense.
Yeah, manager, acting manager, chairman.
Okay. All right, ready to move on to the next item? Okay, approval of quote for repaving Kratz Road between South Station and Gravel Pike.
Steve, you wanna? give
For
a
those
little-
that travel on that Kratz Road between 29 and Southern Station Road,
Thank you.
it's a mess. It needs to be taken care of, and unfortunately, I went out and did core samples and everything like that, and we just don't have the equipment. It's gotta get milled, tacked, and it's gotta get done. So I had a few contractors come in and give me quotes, so you should have them up there with you, and I appreciate if something can be.
Yeah, I mean, I saw you
So I can
guys
get-
patched, you know,
Yeah, that.
filled
that-
what you
yeah,
could
that-
and,
We popped the inlet there, we cleaned out the storm inlet,
yeah.
we flushed out the pipe, we did everything we had to do. But now, I'm asking you if, you know, to look over those quotes and let's get it
I
done.
saw you had it marked for the mill and
Yeah. So,
it's been.
I'd appreciate it.
It's
I'm
been a
sure everybody
headache
else
for
would too,
years.
so.
Yeah, and, you know, like Steve said, he had hoped that they could do this in-house with the help of Lower Fred's public works staff, but it's just beyond what.
I don't wanna just
they're
scratch it
for.
out and overlay, I want it done the right way.
Yeah.
So we did get 3 quotes. The lowest quote is from Saks and Sons for a total of $12,240. In addition, we will purchase the asphalt through the CoStarz program, and the estimate for asphalt is $7,455.
Sure, why not? Any public comments? Okay. All right, well, then, I mean, we followed all the necessary procedures for this to obtain these quotes and the values
did.
and everything else.
Yep, we did.